I've just decided that I want to go over Mempool.space. This is the Bitcoin dashboard, if you will. Somebody made this. I forget the guy's name. I follow him on Twitter. Anyway, he made this site that it's basically a Bitcoin dashboard. It shows you everything you need to know in real time and all the way back to the beginning of Bitcoin, everything that's going on with it. So here are the blocks. So on the right here, these are blocks that have been mined. They have transactions in them. They are final. There is no turning back from whatever transactions have occurred in these blocks. There's no reversing it. They are locked in perpetuity. These ones to the left that are green, these are pending. So these are transactions that people have submitted requesting miners to add their transactions into the next block that gets mined. And so all the miners in the world have what's called a template, and it is basically just, here, I'll show you. I'm going to click on next block right here. So this is the next block. And as you can see, there are these smaller blocks in there that of various sizes. The size depends on the data required to submit the transaction. So obviously, the more data that is required to be in a block for your transaction, well, the higher the fee is going to be for you to get included into that block, depending on how much everyone else is willing to pay for that block. And so as you can see, they're colored here. So there's a bunch of green ones over here. Now look at this. Look at the fee rate. SAT per VB is 3.05. Fee rate 3.05. Fee rate 3.05. That's very, very low. But it takes up a lot of space. Okay, so even at 3 sats of VB, it's $65, $61, $85. All right, so it's not cheap when you take up this much space. But then look at some of these little guys here. 12 cents. That one is just 9 cents. 9 cents. Because you have one single little itty bitty transaction, one wallet address to one wallet address, or they call them UTXOs, unspent transactions, unspent transaction outputs. One UTXO to one output. You ain't paying for that. It's cheap as But you see how they're green? The sats per VB is very low, 3. When you hop over onto the orange, 27. Now let's go over to this like reddish orange, 51. Whoever it is that submitted that transaction to the mempool, they are saying, "Dear Mr. Miner, I absolutely have to have my transaction in the next block, and I will pay you 151 sats per VB to make sure that this transaction is in the next block and it doesn't get pushed back to the next one. It's definitely going to be in this block, not the next one, or not 6 blocks later or 10 blocks later." So that is how the miner, this is the job that the miners do. They are taking in the transactions, they're organizing them, and they're filling up the block space. The block space is limited. It's limited to, I think, 100 megabytes. I think it's 100 megabytes. I might be wrong. I forget the number exactly, but it's a pretty small amount. It's very, very small amount. The entire blockchain, Bitcoin blockchain for 13 years now is only like 500 gigs. That's 13 years, one block every 10 minutes for 13 years. And it's only 500 gigs. Like they make thumb drives that are bigger than that. They make thumb drives that are 2 terabytes now. And so it's like, it's really not a lot of data. But the reason why it's not a lot of data, 13 years worth of information is not a lot of data, is because these block sizes are limited. And I think it's 100 megabytes per block. So anyway, so as you can see, this is what happens. Now, this is the interesting part right here, is total fees, okay? So right now, the block subsidy, that is the reward that a miner earns just for solving the block, right now is 6.25 Bitcoin per block. In April of next year, there's going to be the halvening. This will be the 4th halvening of Bitcoin, or 5th halvening of Bitcoin, in which that block reward will get cut in half. So instead of 6.25 Bitcoin per block, Bitcoins per block, it'll be 3.125 Bitcoins per block. So this is what everybody's preparing for, because we all know what happened after the halvening, 90 to 180 days after the halvening. The price goes up. The price goes up because liquidity, it's going to happen. It's inevitable. So then the question becomes, well, what happens in 2140 when the block subsidy is 0? Great question. I grappled with this a lot myself. It was not long ago that there was this thing called ordinals that came out. And ordinals was basically this sort of hacky way that some developers figured out how to implement NFTs into the Bitcoin blockchain. And well, it was very controversial. I don't really know how I feel about it. Like, look, it's kind of dumb and pointless and useless in my opinion, but it did prove something. There was one or two blocks during this ordinal craze where everybody who was into the ordinals and wanting to make sure that their ordinals got solidified into a block were paying inordinate amounts of fees in order to do so. And there were two blocks. I think two blocks, maybe just one, and the second one was really close. But I think there were two blocks where the total fee, the mining, the mining fee, not the block subsidy, was higher than the block subsidy. I believe there were two blocks where one of them was like almost 7 Bitcoin, and then a second one that was like 6.5 Bitcoins, just in mining fees, not for the block subsidy. So that means that for those two blocks, whoever solved it, that miner that solved it or that pool that solved it, they got the 6.25 Bitcoins block subsidy, and they got the 6 or 7 Bitcoins in network fees. Now, at the time, it was very difficult for everybody else. You know, like if you're one of these smaller guys over here that just wants to send 0.0000333 Bitcoin, 333 sats for 25 cents, you wouldn't have been able to get this transaction in because it wasn't 4 sats of VB. It was like 150 sats of VB or some other ridiculous number. I don't even remember exactly how high it was, but it was very, very high. So it crowded out a bunch of smaller transactions for a time. But then eventually, the miners worked through all the transactions, got everything into the blocks that everybody requested. And now we're back to 4, 7, 10 sats of VB, which is very, very affordable, very normal. So anyway, that answers the question. That should answer your question as to what's going to happen in 2140 when we get there, because the miners are still going to make mining fees. And in 2040, okay, Bitcoin went from $0 to $26,000 in 13 years. All right, 2140 is more than 100 years from now. What do you think the price of Bitcoin is going to be then? It's going to be a hell of a lot more than $100 million. All right. It's going to be a hell of a lot more. So even the most modest Bitcoin price, like this right here, 0.11 Bitcoins, that's going to be an F ton of money or value at the time, because I don't believe there will be fiat currency by then. I don't think that'll exist. It'll just be Bitcoin. That'll be a lot. That'll be worth a ton. That'll be worth a house, So the miners are still going to be able to make money. They're still going to be incentivized to mine away. This whole conundrum, this whole problem can be summarized as the security problem, as it has been recently explained to me. I always knew this was a concern or a problem. I just didn't have the answer or the explanation to it or the understanding of it until recently. But I recently learned that there's a name for this, and it's called the security problem. And so there's a bunch of people who are trying to change Bitcoin. They want to fix Bitcoin. They want to fork Bitcoin because they're afraid of what will happen at this time. But we already saw what happens. They're going to make, when Bitcoin goes up in price and goes up in demand, and it's the only true store of value out there, and it's the only true hard money out there, because all the cryptos have proven to just be toys at a toy store. Everybody's going to rush to Bitcoin. Everybody's going to figure it out, and they're going to put all their life savings into it. So they're going to see the value of a deflationary asset, or just an absolutely hard scheduled money, where you can predict exactly what the inflation is and what the supply cap is. That's going to just drive the price up, and that's going to drive network activity up. So it is going to become expensive to operate on layer 1 on Bitcoin directly. It's going to become very expensive to include a transaction on there. But we've already got tons and tons of layer 2 solutions out there. We've got tons of them. Lightning is the most prominent one. It's, I believe, the most scalable one. It works. I've never had a problem with it. I've been using it consistently for over a year. Well, just under a year now. I've got my own BTC Pay server. Customers on my website can use it to pay me in Bitcoin or Lightning, and it works perfectly. I haven't had any problems yet. Not that anybody's buying anything from my store, but I've tested it and it works great. And that's just one. That's just the most developed one that we have currently. There's also tons of others. Liquid by BLOCKSTREAM. Cashew. There's ARC is on the way. There's a lot of development happening with ARC, although I don't believe it's public yet, but that's coming, I think. So tons of layer 2 solutions out there. And plus, by the way, what are you going to do? Wait for 10 minutes to buy a coffee? I mean, look how long we've been waiting on this block. It is this block, right, that we've been waiting on? I think so. Like, you're going to stand around and wait for your transaction to get included into a block for 10 minutes, 20 minutes to get a coffee? You know what I mean? That's not going to work. The layer 1 is for like houses, cars, rent, the larger utilities, the larger payments that you have to make on a regular basis. That's what the layer 1 is going to be for. The layer 2 stuff like Lightning, that's going to be for your coffee, your pizza, your beer. And but it is Bitcoin that you're dealing with. It's layer 2. It is a protocol that had been built on top of Bitcoin to make transactions very rapid and also maintain security and finality, which are some of the most important features of Bitcoin. So I was really hoping that in the last few seconds there, while I was wrapping up my thoughts, that this block would get solved so that I could move on, or that we could look at it, after it's been solved. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to look at this block. So let's pretend this block gets solved, and they're like, boom, we found the hash that solves this block, and 300 sats of VB. That's crazy. Oh, but look at that. This person is moving 30 Bitcoin, and it's only costing them $11.42. 30 Bitcoin. How much is that? Hold on. This is crazy. Where's Bitcoin? What was it? Was it 33? 30 Bitcoin. That person is moving $800 equivalent of Bitcoins, and it is only costing them $11.42, and they made the sats per VB so high that they are guaranteed to get into this block, and so they only have to wait 10 minutes or whenever this block gets solved for $11.42. Name a bank in the world that can do that. Name a bank in the world that can move $800,000 in 10 minutes for $11.42. Please let me know if that is a thing. Let me know. Let me know how in the world that happens and where and with whom. This is the beauty of Bitcoin. So anyway, let's say this block gets solved. So we're looking at that block now. So here it is. So here is the expected block. So this is what we were looking at when all the transactions were moving around. But then here's the actual block. So this is what actually got into the block, and these transactions are final, unless we have an orphan block, but that's for another video. So if you were one of these blocks here that did not end up in over here, then what that means is that you are still in the mempool. You're still in the pending block over here. You're still waiting to get added. So this happens sometimes. If you set the fee too low, like this guy right here, 4.10 sats of VB, probably not going to make it. Probably going to run out of space with all these transactions that are willing to pay, 27 sats of VB, 302 sats of VB. They're going to crowd you out. And then you're just going to keep getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back until the network congestion is low enough that you get in there. So now let's say you submit a transaction and you submit, let's say you got fat thumbs and you accidentally hit 3 instead of hitting 9 or something. And so you're just waiting for this transaction for an hour. Maybe you're waiting for a whole day and it just doesn't get in there. There's this really cool thing called RFB, replace by fee, or RBF, replace by fee, RBF. And what you can do is actually go into your transaction and just up the transaction fee to make sure the transaction gets pushed through in a timely manner. That's really cool that you can do that with Bitcoin. I'm not aware that you can do that with anything else. I don't think you can do that with Ethereum. Maybe you can, and I'm just not aware. But I learned that is a thing here in Bitcoin, which I thought is so cool. And in fact, I did that one time. I was moving some savings around, and I kind of thought like, what, it doesn't need to happen right now, so I'll keep this fee really low, save some money on the fee. And, by the time I wake up in the morning tomorrow, it'll be through, right? And then I woke up in the morning and it was not through. And it was still pending. And in fact, the average fee, the median fee, had only gone up and up and up and up. And so I was like, crap. Well, I don't want to wait that long. I don't know how much longer I'm going to have to wait. So I did an RBF, replaced by fee, and I upped the sats per VB, and I got my transaction into the next, few blocks or whatever. And I didn't end up paying that too much in network fee, so it was all good. But when the block does get solved, the cool thing you can see is who solved it. You can see the miner that solved it. So this is Ultimate Pool. So this is, I don't know anything about Ultimate's pool, but looks like they've solved some blocks. So they must be a pretty big pool. So they've solved 2 blocks in less than 24 hours, 2 blocks in 24 hours, so they got, they're on average 2 blocks a day, 2 blocks per 24-hour period. They got 3 here, 2. Oh, wow, they had a good one here. They had 6 blocks in one day. That's crazy. And so anyway, so the company I work with, they mine on Foundry, and I just so happened to be watching this last night. I am that much of a nerd. And block 955 was Foundry. So my company mines with this pool. This is their pool. So as you can see, Foundry is huge. Foundry is solving blocks, every hour. They're a big one. So they got a large share of the hash rate, big old fat share of the hash rate. So yeah. And so anyway, this is the dashboard part, by the way. And as you can see, it's like the line right in between these two. I'm not selected here, and I'm not selected here either. And so this gives you kind of a dashboard. No priority, 2 sats per VB. Low priority, 6. Medium, 8. High, 12. So if you want to guarantee that your transaction is going to get into a block right now, you'd hit 12. 12 would probably do it. If you're really desperate, like got to be in there and can't take any chances, maybe you'd up this to 15 or 20. So this is the expected number of blocks, or time between blocks, 10.1. Here's a little graph of the number of incoming transactions. You can see how it spikes sometimes, like companies or projects or whatever come in sometimes and just submit thousands of transactions and kind of congest the network. And so this drives up the network fee, obviously. This part is really fascinating. This is the total number of memory usage of unconfirmed transactions. And what's so fascinating about this is it's 150,000 unconfirmed transactions that are sitting in the mempool. That is a ton of transactions. So, but what's interesting is during the ordinal, this number got up to 500,000. And now I normally see the number around 250 to 300,000. And right now it's down to 150,000. So that's really interesting. I'm curious to know if this is something that's going to change. Like, are they clearing out the mempool? Is this just a natural consequence of some of the push-pull, supply-demand on the network? What's going on there? I'm really curious to see if this number ever gets any lower than this, and what happens to that? Does that drive down the network fee? It would be interesting. So this block is still pending. This same exact block, we're still waiting on it. That's very interesting. I was really hoping to see it get finalized here in this video. So, I am actually going to shut up and wait until it does, and then I'll start talking again. There we go. The block finally got solved. All right, so let's go take a look at it. Ended up being on a median of 15 sats per VB, which is still pretty goddamn low. Like, it's just so cheap. Let's see if our boy got into the block at 300 and whatever sats of VB. Oh, that was expected. 50. Okay, sorry, 50 sats of VB. Okay, where's Home Sauce with the 300 sats of VB? Oh man, did we lose him? Did he get crowded out? What happened? 109. Wait, no, I'm looking at the wrong number. Oh, it's this guy, isn't it? Right here. Nope. Where's Mr. 30 Bitcoin? Where'd he go? There he is. 300 sats of VB, 30 Bitcoin. Okay, so let's go look at this transaction. So he's in the block. Now, if you notice this, it's one input, one UTXO that's getting spent, and it's got the mining fee up here, and then it's got 2 UTXOs. So he or she or they gave 0.03 Bitcoin. How much is that? Like $1,000. So anyway, they basically just gave a little shave of some of their 30 Bitcoin arsenal to somebody. The rest of it probably went right back into their own wallet, most likely. But we don't know for sure. It's a different address, but it could still be the same seed, same parent seed. So yeah, anyway, that's interesting. Whatever it was, they were like, I had better get this transaction in this block now. God damn it, I'm paying 300 sats. Overpaid 20x to ensure that this transaction got in the block. That's the beauty of supply and demand. That's the beauty of Bitcoin and this glorious thing that Satoshi created for us all. It works like a charm.